What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on ESPN with a 12-team full PPR mock. We've got the 7th pick overall. Should be pretty interesting. And while we wait for this thing to kick off, a quick reminder, if you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. And let us hear it in the comments section. What do you think of these selections, of these squads, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. And lastly, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide, now available for purchase. Everything you could want at a great value. Top 150 overall player rankings in standard and PPR formats, individual player buyouts, tiers, projections, along with general fantasy advice. Details in the description. But with that being said, let's take a look at what has taken place so far. The first 4 picks are in. They are as follows: Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, and now Austin Eckler just went off the board. Now, I did mention this is a full PPR draft. Very interesting to see Derrick Henry being the number 2 pick overall, ahead of an Eckler, ahead of a Christian McCaffrey. You know, that's something, in my opinion, that if this is a standard league, then sure, but in full PPR, I wouldn't be that bullish. Now, here we're in a situation where we could go wide receiver. The top 2 guys are off the board, though, so in my opinion, it should be at the running back position. So I'll go with Dalvin Cook here. I think he's a safe, good all-around running back choice. I have him a little bit higher than Najee Harris, just because I think with Najee Harris, he's not going to see the same pass-catching work that he did last year, and Trubisky is probably going to take away some of that rushing upside. It won't be much, but, I wouldn't be shocked if Trubisky, when it's all said and done, has like 400, 500 yards rushing on the ground, something like that, depending obviously on how many games he starts. But just something to think about. Otherwise, other guys that I was considering here, DeAndre Swift was a name that I'm looking at. But I think Dalvin Cook was a little bit of a safer choice. I really do like DeAndre Swift. If he's there in the second round, I'll probably draft him. Guys that I also am a fan of, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara. But, those guys, especially Alvin Kamara, the suspension, right now I'm just going to hold out until there's more information surrounding that, and then, have him kind of readjusted in terms of our expectations. Now, after our Dalvin Cook pick, we saw Jamar Chase, then Najee Harris, then Stephon Diggs. So you could argue 4 of the top 5 pass catchers are off the board, that being, Kupp, Jefferson, Diggs, Jamar Chase, even though I have Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs ahead of Jamar Chase. He'd be at the number 5 spot. I think in full PPR scoring, it's pretty crazy to have Jamar Chase as a top 3 wide receiver. I don't think he's going to come close to the reception count of an Adams or a Stephon Diggs. So for that reason, I would have him as my number 5 guy. Then the aforementioned DeAndre Swift gets drafted with the 11th pick in the first round. So that's all right. I think, again, we'll end up with a pretty good running back here. It is interesting to see how high, a guy like a James Conner is here on ESPN. On other platforms, he's a lot lower. Same with Cam Akers. I don't like that. The fact that Joe Mixon is still available is pretty tempting. I'm not going to lie to you. But, and as soon as I say that, of course, he's drafted. Kind of makes sense. I think he was a very good value pick at that point in time. So now let's see what we can do here. We can go with an Aaron Jones. We can go with, there goes James Conner. Alvin Kamara, I think he's probably right now the best value pick. But again, because of what I said about the suspension, I'm just going to hold. We could also go with, a Saquon Barkley. I think he's pretty tempting. I think he's got some nice high rushing upside, good pass catching upside as well. You know what? Just to switch things up here and to, show you guys that I am serious about how I value Saquon Barkley, I'm going to draft him here in the second round. Typically, this is like 9 times out of 10, I'd be selecting Aaron Jones. And speaking of Aaron Jones, he literally goes with the next pick after mine. A lot of people are probably going to be a little bit tentative with Saquon Barkley. I understand that. Last 2 years he's burned you, but he is now 2 years removed from his ACL injury. He is on a team with a vastly improved offensive line, and he's still going to be the focal point of that offense. So to me, I think he's going to return to more Saquon Barkley-esque type of performances this season. Now, afterwards, we do see Aaron Jones, like I mentioned. We see CeeDee Lamb. The reason I mentioned before that I like Aaron Jones and I'd be selecting him 9 times out of 10, I do think he's a little bit safer than Saquon Barkley. I think he's going to see, especially in PPR formats, huge pass-catching upside without Devontae Adams, so I really like that. We saw CeeDee Lamb, then Alvin Kamara. Right now, I just kind of have him off my board until the suspension thing becomes more clear. Is it going to be 3 games? Is it going to be 6 games? Is it going to be less than that? More than that? TBD. Javonte Williams then with the 10th pick in the second round. I continue to say this. Williams in the second round, I think you're reaching there. But hey, if he hits, I think, and it's a big if, I think you're going to need Melvin Gordon to significantly take a step back or to have an injury for it to become fully Javonte Williams' backfield. Then he's going to return kind of on investment. But until then, I think it's very questionable. After Javonte, probably the pick that I hate the most so far, that is Cam Akers with the 11th pick in the second round. I don't know how many ways I can say this. Cam Akers has zero business. Honestly, he has zero business being drafted in the first 4 rounds. I think you can make an argument he shouldn't be drafted at all. In fact, I just literally released a breakdown of our top 5 running backs that you shouldn't be drafting this season. Cam Akers was the poster boy of that breakdown. Way too many things going against him. Achilles, crowded backfield. So just no thank you in my opinion. Then you see Mike Evans afterwards, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, the 2 top tight ends, one after the other, going off the board. Then we see Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, Monty, and Ezekiel Elliott. And here, I think I might do something that, again, I haven't done too much before. Go with a boring running back, boring but safe running back in Nick Chubb. I'm looking at these wide receivers. I don't really love anyone. I think, let's go with the Nick Chubb here. Just continue to add depth. Maybe you say, Saquon Barkley's a little bit risky. Okay, add Nick Chubb to the squad. And honestly, whatever happens with Deshaun Watson, since, we're talking Cleveland Browns here, Nick Chubb, I don't think it's really going to impact Chubb's prospects for this season. We know what the Browns are without Deshaun Watson. And we know what Nick Chubb is without Deshaun Watson. Now, yes, he is much higher on my rankings in standard formats, but this was towards the end of the 3rd round. I think that's good value for Nick Chubb there. Travis Etienne is tempting. I might just double down or triple down, quadruple down on running backs. Go Etienne in the 4th round. We'll see. I'm looking at these other potential picks here at wide receiver. Let's see what happens with McLaurin. Let's see what happens with Pittman. If they drop to us, I'd be okay having one of those guys as our wide receiver here. Because look, if we didn't take Nick Chubb, I don't think any of these wide receivers that we waited on or that we saw drafted are all that much better than what's going to be available here within the next 4 picks. Because the top guys were off the board. In my opinion, I think Jalen Waddle's more of a wide receiver too with Tyreek Hill there. A.J. Brown, I don't like with Jalen Hurts throwing him the football. DJ Moore, I don't like with Sam Darnold throwing him the football. Michael Pittman, potentially, yes. Mike Williams, potentially, yes. Marquise Brown, yes. So there are options here. There definitely are options. And I think we're going to be, there goes Travis Etienne. So that option of quadrupling down on running backs, not really going to be a possibility, but that probably would have been a little bit too aggressive. So now we see Mike Williams off the board. That's all right, because Michael Pittman is still there in the 4th round. I think that's pretty good value, especially this being a 12-team league, full PPR. He gets a quarterback upgrade in Matt Ryan. I prefer Michael Pittman over Deontay Johnson, just, to mention the next kind of highest ranked wide receiver. So let's go with Pittman. I think he can be like a top 15 wide receiver again. So I like that pick for us. With our next selection, probably go wide receiver again unless, there's some incredible value elsewhere. But right now I'm not necessarily seeing it. After our Michael Pittman selection, you got Brendan Cooks, a guy that's perpetually underrated year after year. I just think that there's wide receivers, even though I do like the skill of Brendan Cooks, with better quarterback situations. That's why I'd rather go with a Michael Pittman, with a Mike Williams, with a Marquise Brown. You get the point. Now, other selections here, Antonio Gibson is still available. He was another guy, along with Cam Akers, that I said you guys shouldn't be drafting this year. Just a committee approach there. He doesn't have the pass-catching upside. No thank you. Marquise Brown, I'd be very, very happy if he fell to us. I don't think that's the case. We got to pretty much make it, well, like 8, 9 selections, and he's the second best player overall left on the big board. So I do think that'll be a factor unless there's like a huge run on quarterbacks or tight ends. Marquise Brown, not going to be on our team, but that's all right. I'd be very, very happy if we go with Allen Robinson in the 5th round and we can land him there. I'm not really going to go quarterback at this point in time. I want to fortify the wide receiver position. And then if we can get a tight end in the 6th round, one of those difference-making tight ends like a Waller or a Kittle, maybe even a Pitts, but I think Pitts will probably go before then. And honestly, I have Waller and Kittle ranked above Pitts, so it's kind of a moot point. So that's right now kind of just off the cuff my preferred or my ideal kind of selection duo, wide receiver, then high-end tight end. Looking at the running backs, let's see what's kind of left available, but we're set at the position with Cook, Barkley, and Chubb. I really do believe that. Maybe we can go Kareem Hunt super later on, or D'Ernest Johnson is a handcuff to Nick Chubb, something to think about. Wide receiver, there's still a lot of good names. Oh, there goes Marquise Brown. Amon-Ra, wasn't really looking at Amon-Ra. He is going to decline big time this year. I'm not in on Gabriel Davis like everyone else is. Sure, I think, is he going to improve this year? Yes. Is he going to be a borderline top 12 wide receiver like other people have said? No. So here I'm continuing to look at Allen Robinson as our target. If Robinson is off the board, other guys, Judy is somebody that's interesting. Mooney as well. Juju Smith being the main guy in Kansas City. Rashad Bateman. You could take potentially a flyer on Michael Thomas, see what happens there. Let's look at where the next kind of best available tight ends are. There goes Kyle Pitts. That was to be expected. So Darren Waller, George Kittle. There goes Miles Sanders. I'm thinking what's going to be the best. Is it best to maybe go with one of these 2 tight ends first? Probably going to do that because there's some auto picks starting to pop up. And I think, you're going to be... basically, the tight end position isn't as deep as the wide receiver position, so these guys are going to fly off faster, especially with auto pick. Question is, who do you have ranked higher, Waller or Kittle? If you told me that Jimmy Garoppolo would stay in San Francisco and still be their starter this year, I would say Kittle. If you told me that it would be Trey Lance, I would say Waller. If I was a betting man, I think that Trey Lance plays the majority of the season, so I'm going to go with Darren Waller here. Am I worried that Davante Adams is now with the Raiders? No, not really. I think that Derek Carr is one of my favorite quarterback values this season. I think that he is immensely undervalued at this point in time. And honestly, I still think that Darren Waller is the number 2 option on this offense, not Hunter Renfrow after Davante Adams. I have Waller there just because I think the mismatches he creates at his position are going to precipitate him being that number 2 target after Davante Adams. So I like the Waller value, and I will happily take, honestly, either him or George Kittle. I think, assuming both those guys stay healthy all season long, both are going to be good values. Both are going to be vying for a top 5 finish at the tight end position. And so we do see something kind of like how I predicted with Waller. If we had gone with one of our preferred wide receivers, 2 tight ends up until this point have been drafted. I think maybe one of them was auto pick. So, we predicted that run correctly. So, that's something to take note of in your own drafts. See, the depth at each position that you're potentially targeting. What are the chances, there's going to be a run on one versus the other, and, see what teams have already drafted a tight end, something like that, that are drafting after you. So I think we took advantage of that situation nicely. And then another tight end to further kind of back up what we said with TJ Hawkinson. And now we're back on the clock, and I'm going wide receiver. You guys already know which wide receiver I'm going. I'm going Allen Robinson, if he's still there. He is. The fact that Tyler Lockett is ranked above Allen Robinson 12 spots is absolutely insane, considering, who's throwing Tyler Lockett the football? No, it's not Russell Wilson. It's Drew Lock. Forget about it. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, no thank you to both of those guys. Allen Robinson was absolutely a slam dunk, no-brainer of a pick. The fact that I got him in the 6th round, that is, again, highway robbery. One of my favorite value picks this season. You're going to continue to hear me say that because I truly believe he can be a league winner this year paired with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. You see Jalen Hurts being drafted. I think Jalen Hurts just jumped Kyler Murray, which is insane. Like, Jalen Hurts wishes he could be half the passer that Kyler Murray is. I don't care if you give the guy the best wide receivers in the NFL. He hasn't proven it to me as a passer of the football. Like, okay, A.J. Brown is an upgrade at wide receiver, but you got to be able to take advantage of the fact that you have these wide receivers. You're drafting him this high because of what he can do with his legs, not with his arm. Let's be honest about that. While Kyler Murray, okay, he doesn't have the same upside with his legs, but it's not bad. Like, rushing yard-wise, he can get you 500 yards on the ground, which if you look at the projections, it's kind of what it's sitting at right now, more or less. So I really like that there. I knew he wouldn't make it to us for what it's worth. He was just selected here with the 2nd pick in the 7th round, but another great value pick there. So, can't really be too mad. Now, to me, there is a drop-off in quarterback talent. So Dak, whether, however you have your quarterbacks ranked, Dak, Brady, Rodgers, Burrow here, just kind of reading them off. My preferences here would be in no particular order: Wilson, Stafford, Derek Carr. Those are the 3 guys that I would be looking at. There goes Rashad Bateman. I was really hoping he could fall to us. So now, there goes Kareem Hunt. So he won't be a guy that we, back up Nick Chubb with, but that's all right. There's D'Ernest Johnson. I think Michael Thomas at this point is a good value pick. Yes, he's a question mark, but we're getting him in the 8th round. So all things considered, in a full PPR league, I'm willing to take that gamble. So, I think he can be a decent bench piece. We're good at tight end. We are good at running back. All these guys that are kind of left at this point in time are a little bit more, just pure rushers, pure pass catchers, not really that dual threat that you're looking for. Melvin Gordon is somebody that's intriguing. We can target later on. We had a little bit of a run on quarterbacks with Brady, Joe Burrow at the end of the 7th round. There goes Damian Harris. A.J. Dillon is intriguing, but I still think Aaron Jones is the dude in Green Bay. So, yeah, it's not something I'm really overly concerned about. Alexander Madison could be a handcuff to Dalvin Cook later on. Let's see where he ranks. Probably be pretty low on the list. Yeah, we got time. We're not going to go that long within this draft because at that point in time, I think there's going to be a lot of auto picks, kickers, defenses, things like that. So right now, honestly, I might just go quarterback and kind of round out this squad so we have the base complete. So let's go quarterback. Who do you have ranked highest here? Wilson, Stafford, Carr. I do have Stafford ranked the highest. I think he's the safest out of these guys. What you're going to get from him. You get a little stack with Allen Robinson. That ain't bad either. Who has the highest upside? I'd say Russell Wilson probably has the highest upside. who is a guy that I think breaks out the most out of these guys, Derek Carr. So I really like all of them. But we end up with Matthew Stafford, who I said, again, is like the safest. So to me, like at this point in the draft, that's pretty good value with Stafford. Just kind of breaking down this team. We'll probably make one more selection and then wrap this up. So we got Stafford at quarterback. I think he can, similar to last year, be, finished as the 6th, 7th best overall quarterback in fantasy. That's really all I need. Then at running back, we got some really good value with Dalvin Cook, picking 7th overall. Saquon Barkley decided to switch things up a little bit, pick him in the 2nd round. Then in the 3rd round, we went with Nick Chubb. I thought that was a pretty good value. Then we went with Michael Pittman in the 4th round. I thought we got lucky there. Darren Waller in the 5th round. So we decided to go tight end first, then a wide receiver. That paid off. Allen Robinson in the 6th round. Awesome value there. Michael Thomas in the 7th round. That was kind of a flyer of a selection, but I'm not too mad about it. I think all things considered, it's kind of low risk, high reward type of situation. And then with our last pick, we went with Matthew Stafford. So, we waited at the quarterback position. Sure, would I have been happy if in the 7th round I could have gotten Kyler Murray? Yeah. But Matthew Stafford, I will take him all day, every day. Wide receiver here, probably looking at Allen Lazard if we went that route. Running back, top guys are kind of gone. Melvin Gordon, let's see. Is Melvin Gordon? I think Melvin Gordon already got drafted, so I'm not really looking at that position. I'm not going to go another quarterback, so I'm just going to go wide receiver here. I'm going to go with Allen Lazard, who I think also has breakout potential. And we're kind of going to wrap it up. I'll add some names here to the queue. I like Derek Carr as a potential breakout. I like Cole Kmet as a guy. Oops, not Irv Smith, Cole Kmet. I like Alexander Madison as a handcuff. So kind of stuff to consider here. But with that, here, we'll make one last selection. We can, for the heck of it, draft Cole Kmet. Doesn't really matter at this point in time. But, hey, let me know your thoughts. Did you agree, disagree with these picks? If you guys have any other questions, let me hear them in the comment section. I think we got a pretty solid roster here together. We got depth at the wide receiver position, even though we waited on it. I think this is a solid B roster. We got depth at running back as well. If all these guys still stay healthy, I think this would be a roster that definitely contends a type of potential. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. Again, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide, now available for purchase. Details in the description. And in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.